Hello, current and future TOEFL test takers. Are you feeling a bit nervous about the speaking section of the TOEFL exam? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. Many test takers find this part challenging, but I'm here to help. So today we're going to explore some effective exercises and techniques to boost your fluency for the TOEFL speaking exam. So let's talk about it. I wanted to first briefly mention test prep material. I recommend going with ETS. They are the makers of the test, the ETS TOEFL test prep book. The 5th edition is just fine, or even the 6th edition, which is the latest version. They are the makers of the test, so it makes sense to go with their prep book first. It's not necessarily the cheapest if you're on a budget. So if you want to just focus on the TOEFL speaking, I did put together a TOEFL ebook, or you can also get a print copy, and it only focuses on the speaking. And it's everything you really need to know about the TOEFL speaking section. I'm ESL teacher Lisa, and in this video, I'm going to cover everything from the test structure to practical tips that will have you speaking with confidence in no time. So this video is only going to focus on the speaking section of the test. And I'm going to tell you why you should first always start with the speaking section, with speaking section practice. So grab a notebook, let's get started. I'm going to put you on a journey to TOEFL speaking success. First of all, what is the TOEFL test? What does it stand for? What's the cost? How do I take it? Where do I take it? So TOEFL IBT, it stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language. It's an internet-based test. It's a standardized test, and it's used to measure the English language proficiency of non-native English speakers. If you're planning to enroll in English-speaking universities or institutions. So the TOEFL IBT, it really assesses your reading, your listening, your speaking, and writing skills in an academic context, and it's widely accepted by universities and colleges worldwide. And it's part of the admissions process for international students. So that's what the test is. How much does it cost? Well, it depends, but I'm going to give you the website, the official website, where you can get all that information, and you need to visit ets.org. That's the official website. There you can select your test date, your location, registration process to see if the online version is available. And of course, you can check specific pricing for your location. It's anywhere from $190 to $250. So for those on a budget, you want to try to get it right the first time, the second time, 3, 4, 5, 11 times. It starts to get expensive. So each time you take it, really try to get your money's worth and try to score as high as possible. So again, just go to ets.org. Let's talk about what materials to use for practice. So ETS, they are the makers of the TOEFL test, so it makes sense for you to start with their prep exam book. So here's a copy of the 5th edition. I really like the 5th edition. They also have the 6th edition out. The practice questions and the tests that ETS releases are limited. And I say that because if you say, okay, I'm going to buy 4 or 5 manuals, they have some of the same practice questions repeated. So you don't need to buy 2, 3, or 4 practice book exams. Just 1 or 2 is just fine. So you can go with the official. I've also condensed only the speaking section. So I put together a TOEFL Speaking Success, and it's much cheaper than buying the entire book. So if you really want to just start with the speaking section, or if that's your weakest section, then you can just download the ebook, or you can purchase a hard copy on Amazon. And I've just condensed it so it only focuses on the speaking, and that makes things a lot easier, and it might be a more cost-effective way to start TOEFL practice. Scoring. I'm going to go into more detail in scoring later on, but a perfect score on the speaking is 30. Okay, so now let's talk about some strategies. We will cover practice questions, and I'm going to give you example answers, what a native would say and what to look for and why this would be a great answer. So I'll actually give you like a perfect answer and what the test is really looking for. Okay, so first, let's break down the structure of the speaking section. It's very important for you to be very familiar with the structure. Why is that important? You should know what's coming next. So after task 1, task 2, you should know what's coming next so you don't waste time reading instructions or trying to figure out what is it that I really have to do. The test doesn't change. It's the same thing. It's just the questions change. The structure is the same. So you should know it very, very well. So here is the speaking section structure. You have task 1, task 2, 3, and 4. 4 tasks. We're going to focus on task 1 in this video. There's plenty to say, so we're just going to focus on task 1. Upcoming videos, I will focus on the other tasks because task 1 is really where you can elevate your score. Please note, I ask students really to focus first on practicing the speaking section because reading scores are slower to go up. Writing scores are slower to go up. Why? Because it takes time to be a better reader. It takes time to be a better writer. But speaking and even listening, you can increase those scores a lot faster. So if you want to boost your overall score, focus on the speaking section. Because with the right strategies, you can really boost your score. Okay, let's go back to the structure. Task 1, it's called an independent speaking task. And it's where you share your opinion on a familiar topic. You will have 15 seconds to think or prepare. The test calls it prepare, but it's really to think, and 45 seconds to speak. Now, what can you do to boost your score? Let's talk about 3 exercises. The first one is timed speaking practice. And I'm telling you, if you follow these tips, you can boost your score. So what do I mean? When you practice, because the test is timed, you need to be practicing the timing. So set a timer for 45 seconds and then speak about a random topic. Because task 1 really asks you a question and all you have to do is answer that question in the allotted time. So to practice, just start with simple subjects like your favorite food, daily routine, speaking the answer. And then when you get more comfortable, feeling the time, understanding how long 30 seconds is, how long 45 seconds is, then you can move on to more complex topics. But start there. So for example, if you want to talk about your daily routine, speak it. Just say, I wake up normally about 6:30 a.m. I try to get to the gym, but first I eat breakfast. I get my kid ready to get on the bus. Just really speak it. Just get used to it. Don't worry so much about words and this and that. Just get used to speaking in a concise time. Okay, exercise 2 is shadowing. With shadowing, what you're going to do is get a short audio clip of a native speaker. It has to be a native speaker. So it could be from a podcast, a TV show, YouTube video, whatever. Get a clip of a native speaker. And then I want you to listen to that clip. So it's just a little short clip. And then repeat what you hear, mimicking the speaker or repeating the speaker's pace and intonation. So you're going to improve your pronunciation, speaking rhythm this way. So the speaker will say something, you pause it, and then you say the exact same thing in the same way. Exercise 3, topic expansion. You're going to choose a simple word or phrase like coffee or summer vacation. Set a timer for 1 minute and try to speak about the topic. And then you're going to expand on the related ideas. And this really helps you practice quickly generating relative content. So for example, summer vacation. You might say something like this, set your timer for 1 minute, and then you'll say, I love summer vacation. In fact, my favorite kind of summer vacation is where I spend time at the beach. I'm a great swimmer. I started swimming when I was 4 years old. And my favorite thing to do after swimming for a while is to get my beach chair, put on my headsets, and listen to my favorite songs. And then, after a while, I'll go get an ice cream or a milkshake and come back to my beach chair and listen to music some more. And on and on and on. This just gets you again comfortable with trying to expand on the go or on the fly, but within that time frame. This technique helps you to enhance your accuracy and your speed. So let's go into techniques. So we just talked about exercises. So we talked about timed speaking practice, shadowing, and topic expansion. The next is techniques, chunking. Technique number 1 is called chunking. Don't worry, we are going to go over specific examples of task 1, what kind of questions, how to answer, and I'll give you some, perfect answers. We'll talk about what the test takers are looking for and really how they are graded and scored. So technique number 1 is called chunking. So instead of focusing on individual words, I want you to try to speak in phrases or chunks. That's what we mean by chunking. So instead of saying this, for example, I went to the store. Try to say, I went to the store. So this technique helps you sound more natural and fluid. So try not to say just these individual words, which can be very halting. I went to the store or I went to the store. How about I went to the store? Technique number 2 is filler word reduction. What are filler words? We all use filler words, some more than others. Words like, Try to reduce those and then replace them with a very short pause. Silence is okay if it's short, so don't be afraid of silence. Or use a connecting word. Moreover, additionally, to help us move from one idea to the next. And this is going to help your speech sound more polished and confident. Technique number 3 is breath control. So take deep breaths before you start speaking to calm your nerves. Breathe in, inhale, breathe out, exhale. But I want you to practice speaking on the exhale, and that helps you to maintain a steady flow of words. And it will help manage your pace and avoid running out of breath. Try it. It's hard to speak on the inhale. We don't want you speaking on the inhale when you're taking in breath. You're going to run out of breath. But on the exhale, it's a lot easier. I went to the beach. So remember, when you're nervous, think about your breathing and speak on the exhale. So those are the 3 techniques. So chunking, filler word reduction, and breath control. Now, let's move on to some tips very specific to each speaking task. This video is only going to focus on task 1. We have 4, but only on task 1, which is the independent speaking task. Remember, you have to practice expressing your opinion clearly and concisely. And you're going to use personal examples to support your points. And you're going to structure your response with a brief introduction, main point, and a conclusion. So do you remember the timing of the test? So you should have that in mind before you take the test. You should know it's 15 seconds to prepare or think about your answer. So it's not a long time. And then 45 seconds to speak. And so we're going to go over some example questions and answers. Okay, so let's take a look at one example question. So let's look at an example question that has actually been used on the TOEFL test before. If you've already started prepping for the test, you might have come across this example question. So this is task 1, the independent speaking task. Here's the question. Do you prefer studying alone or studying with a group? Use details and examples to explain your answer. So here's how I'd like you to answer task 1. Here's the structure. Every single time you need to use this structure. The first is answer the question directly in one sentence. Answer the question directly. In this case, the question asks us to choose because it uses prefer. You have to do that. You will lose points if you don't do that. So I would start by saying, I prefer studying alone, right? Or maybe you want to say, I prefer studying with a group. So answer it directly, pick a side. You cannot say, I sometimes like studying alone, but studying in a group is also beneficial. No, that's not the way to answer this question. The TOEFL is looking for a very concise answer, and they want you to pick a side. I don't care which side, whichever one you think you can talk about more. It doesn't have to be true. So some students say, well, I like studying alone, but I can't think of anything. I can think of a lot of things to say about studying with a group. Okay, then just pick that one. So let's say I prefer studying alone. Then the second thing you need to do is state why. You need to have a reason or why. So answer the question directly, state why. Maybe your why is, I feel more productive when I study alone, or I can focus more when I study alone. The third thing you need to do is support your why. Use details and examples. And the question actually says that. It says use details and examples to explain your answer. So here you're going to back it up with supporting examples. It could be yourself or others. And again, it does not even have to be true. It just needs to make sense. So this is always the structure you want to follow when you answer speaking task number 1. Answer it directly. Pick a side, no in between, no 50-50. Then why? Then give details by reasoning, examples, true to life stories, and you have to be concise. All in approximately 45 seconds. Okay, now let's just talk about the speaking section scoring for a minute, and then I'm going to actually read you an example answer and why it's a great 4 out of 4. So what do I say 4 out of 4? Well, each task, on average, you can get 3.5 out of 4 per task. So that might translate to 27 or 28 out of 30, because remember, 30 is a perfect score. Well, why am I saying maybe it's 27 or maybe 28? Why am I saying 3.5 out of 4? Well, first it's scored on 0 to 4. Then that score gets put in a scale that ETS does not make public. So that scale is a little bit different every time you take the test. So one group of students take the test, for example, June 1st. Then you have another group that take it June 8th. The scale is going to be different. And again, we are not privy to, or we're not told what that scale is like or how they exactly make the conversion. So that's what we have to say about. Okay. So that's how it's scored. I sometimes get questions that, does a human score my speaking? Do they actually listen? And the answer is yes and no. Well, each of the 4 speaking tasks, remember this video is only focusing on the first one. It's initially rated by human raters. So yes, humans listen. And or AI scoring technology. And they use the ETS speaking scoring rubric, which assigns a score of 0. So like if you don't answer, or your answer is like ridiculously unintelligible, meaning we can't even understand you, you get a 0, all the way to 4. So 4 is excellent, 3 is good, 2 is fair, 1 is limited, and 0 is inadequate, off topic, or unintelligible. We just can't even understand a thing. And that's not going to be you, right? So we really want you to get those 3s and 4s, and then it gets converted to this scale of 0 to 30. And this formula is not made public. What are they looking for? What are the raters looking for? First of all, your delivery. It has to be clear and natural pronunciation. You need good pacing and fluency, no long, awkward pauses, and intonation that helps with meaning. So there has to be ups and downs, right? English is a stress-timed language, and what that means is we have ups and downs when we speak. It's not a syllable-time language. For example, Brazilian Portuguese, it's a very regular when you hear it, but English is stress-time. So we need to hear those ups and downs when you speak. Don't worry about accent. As long as we can understand the word, of course you're going to have an accent, right? You're international students, so it's not about having an accent or not. It's about being understood. Can you speak close enough to native where we can understand the word? Number 2, language use. So first is delivery, that they're looking for your delivery, then language use, good control of grammar and vocabulary. You need to have the ability to create a variety of sentence structure, and appropriateness of the word choice, and grammar, accurate grammar. Third is topic development. So you have to have a well-organized and coherent response. So it has to be coherent in the sense that it should flow nicely and then we can understand your answer. That structure that I just gave you is really to help you with organization and coherency. So if I ask you a question, or in this case, TOEFL is going to ask you a question, answer it first, and then support it with why, and then details and examples and reasons. That is coherent. And then also they're looking for ideas that are really well supported. You really need to explain and give examples. And you have to make sure you fully answer the question. So with topic development, they're looking for you to fully answer the entire question. Okay? And that should get you to a 3 or a 4. So let's look at the examples. Okay. Sample high scoring answer. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna read an example here. Do you prefer studying alone or studying with a group? Here is an answer that gets you a 4. I definitely prefer studying alone because it allows me to focus better without distractions. When I study by myself, I can go at my own pace, spend more time on difficult topics, and take breaks whenever I need to. For example, when I was preparing for a biology exam last semester, I tried studying with friends, but we ended up chatting more than reviewing. The next day, I reviewed the material alone and understood it much faster. So overall, studying alone helps me manage my time better and retain information more effectively. So that's an example of a 4. It was clear, natural. I used transition words like for example. I supported my why, and the why was in the first sentence because it allows me to focus better without distractions. And I answered it directly. I definitely prefer studying alone. So I had all 3 of those components that I talked to you about. Answer directly, why, and give supporting detail. So that's task 1. So if you want more examples, you can use the official ETS guidebook. So that's what I recommend. ETS are the makers of the test. So use their book. If you don't want the expense, because books are not cheap, practice books are not cheap, you can get the 5th version or the 6th version of the ETS TOEFL exam prep. Just know adding more practice books. So ETS is the one I always recommend. There's other great ones too, but you have to know that ETS sends out a limited number of questions, practice questions. So a lot of the practice manuals are just using the same questions. So you don't need to buy 2, 3, 4 prep books. If you have one big one, that's fine to help you cover all 4 sections. If you want to save some money, I did put together a TOEFL Speaking Success. So this ebook, or you can get the print version on Amazon or the ebook in my Gumroad store, it's a lot less expensive because it only focuses on the speaking, and it gives you enough type of questions where you know how to practice. It gives you additional tips, some of which I didn't talk about in this video. So what's in this video plus more is in that TOEFL book. You'll be prepared for the speaking. You will be absolutely prepared for the speaking. So if you want that as a cheaper option, you can certainly do that. If not, just buy any prep book. I would go with the ETS manual first. If you've already practiced with the ETS, then go ahead and find another one. My second recommendation would be the Princeton Review. I actually taught with the Princeton Review. I did some tutoring with them. And TOEFL I did with a learning center, Huntington Learning Center, when I lived in New York. So I have tutored for this exam. Okay, so I will link all the resources in the description. Okay, so let me read you a low-level speaking task 1, low level. Let's break it down. Here's an example. This one scored a 2. Same question. I think studying alone is good because you can focus, like no people talking. Sometimes I study with friends, but it's not good, so I study alone. That's better, yeah. So that got a 2. It did answer the question, studying alone is good. It said why there's no people talking, and it didn't really explain. It didn't give examples, so that's the problem. And also the sentence structure, the use of grammar, like no people talking. It's not even a full sentence. A lot of the word whispers that we call them, or we call them filler words, like too many of those. So that's why it got a 2. So that's a very low score. Okay. Let's see what else I have for you today. Okay. I just want to stress this point to record yourself and then listen for your delivery issues like filler words, any pauses. Also, are you giving clear, detailed explanations? Are you very vague or too general? You have to make sure you are trying to answer the question fully. Are you using word fragments, sentence fragments rather, like basic grammar, which is the example that we just heard, with some fragments? We don't want incomplete sentences. And you absolutely do not want to run out of time. Do not run out of time. And that's why you practice the timing. That's the worst thing you can do, is run out of time. The answer that I just read you scored 2, but at least they finished. So if you run out of time and they only have half an answer, what do you think your score is going to be? So do not run out of time. Make sure you're practicing managing your time. So if you want more example questions, again, get a practice book. You can also download the ebook or the print book that I put together. You can search for free if you want on Google. That's fine too. So it depends where you are in your TOEFL journey. So that's it for me for today. If you have any additional questions, please put it in the comments. The next video, we're going to cover task 2, 3, and 4. So we'll do 2, 3, and 4 in the next video. And again, if anyone out there has had success with the TOEFL and you'd like to share something that's helped you, you can also put that in the comments. See you in the next one. Remember, to become a more fluent speaker, the secret to becoming more fluent is speak more. Take opportunities to speak. See you, everyone.